I think I'm recording. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Atypical Security Guard. Question for today: are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Isn't this fun? Isn't it funny? You having fun yet? So 2 o'clock in the morning, apparently, security guard outside of Drake's mansion was shot in an apparent drive-by. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about in relation to security. A couple of these things will just be in relation to, just life in general. But I'm thinking about this situation, a guy that I'm sure is probably well compensated, but not compensated at the level of the two people that are involved in this very prolific rap beef, so to speak, catching strays. And this reminds me of a situation that I deal with a lot in private security, and I think that a lot of private security guards probably deal with. If you're working in a protective capacity, similar to I do with the company that I work for, we work in a secondary capacity where we are only there to be a protective agent for loss prevention, for management, for the client. I think that most armed security companies that work in retail establishments, that work in banks, that work in similar situations, that's pretty much what we all do, right? So it's not uncommon, and I have dealt with this so many times myself, where, I am working to deal with the situation, I'm working to de-escalate a situation, and maybe the loss prevention officer, maybe the staff or the associate, will try and amp things up or egg things on because they know that we're there, right? That's not uncommon. I was talking to a very well-known security guard here in Portland who has extensive experience working in nightclubs and working in strip clubs. And he said something I thought was really interesting the other day during our interview. He said that he will not work in a capacity where, if he's called to a situation to handle it, where he's not in charge. He's like, look, I don't care if it's the bartender, I don't care if it's the manager, I don't care if it's the owner. Once I get involved, everything goes through me, right? I'm running security. There's no question. I have to be able to de-escalate situations. I have to be able to handle situations, however I see fit. Like when I get there, everybody backs off and I make the decision. He was like, I don't want anybody chiming in. I don't want anybody piping in. Like if I have to deal with somebody, it all runs through me. And I was thinking to myself, like, that has to be the way that it works for things to go in a situation where they don't go south. Because a lot of times when security shows up, and I'm just talking about in my experience, right? A lot of times when security shows up, you have people that want to see things for their entertainment. Retail establishments, bars, nightclubs, I don't know, anything, warehouses. A lot of times people are looking for the drama for their entertainment, especially in retail establishments. I can't tell you how many times someone has walked past me while at work and being like, "Hey man, anything popping off today?" And I'm like, "No," and that's a good thing. And they're like, "Oh man, I can't wait to see a fight." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're seeing the fight and it's enjoyable from your perspective. Like if I'm the one that's involved in that, that's not enjoyable for me. Like I don't find any enjoyment in getting involved in a fight. I don't find any enjoyment in potentially getting involved in a shooting. I definitely don't want to be in a situation where I get stabbed, right? But it's important for people to understand, for security guards to understand, that a large part of the population, they get off on the drama. They get off on the drama, right? This Drake situation, this Kendrick Lamar situation, if it was about skill and rap and keeping it like on the artistry of the situation, that's one thing. But where does it go? After one or two records, it became on some personal shit. And everybody's throwing out, you beat your wife. And then he returns with, you're a pedophile, right? You fuck young, you do this, you do that. It's going back and forth. Oh, you were molested. Like it's all this Real dirty, grimy, greasy stuff, because everybody on the peripheral, the people who aren't involved, the people who are on the outside, the people on Twitter, the people on Instagram, people online, right? The people who have nothing to do with this shit keep egging it on. Everybody keeps pushing it, keeps pushing it, keeps pushing it. And I've seen a lot of older rappers who have come out over the last couple of days, and they're like, Boozy was a perfect example. He was like, "What is the end goal?" And I asked somebody, "What is the end goal?" He was like, "Do you want to see one of these two rappers' career end up being over? Do you want to see, the feds end up raiding one or two of these people's houses? Do you want the cops to show up at somebody's house because of these allegations? Like, what is the end game? And how is that beneficial to either one of these two people? How is it beneficial to hip hop? How is it beneficial to the black community?" And everybody on Twitter, everybody on Instagram, everybody on online was on some shut the fuck up, fuck you, let these motherfuckers go at it. This is good for hip hop. This is good for hip hop, right? All the way up until the fact that now a random security guard is potentially going to lose his life. Now, could this be something completely unassociated? Yeah, it could. But it doesn't negate like the conversation that we're having right now. And the parallel that I'm trying to draw is that the entertainment of other people based on somebody else's misfortune or on some drama or on some bullshit, it generally ends up affecting the random person. Right? You're at a shopping mall, everybody wants to start fighting. The two crackheads who are trying to fight each other, and everybody runs over to watch the fight. It's not one of those two people that ends up getting shot. It's the fucking random person in the crowd. We're from Kansas City. Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl. They have a fucking Super Bowl party downtown. A million people show up. Everybody's having a great time.
Two people beef over not being able to see.
Right. Two fucking crackheads get into it and start shooting at each other. Don't hit each other. Kill a random radio personality. Just some random person that's there. Right?
I think, I don't know.
Multiple people shot. Kids get shot.
Kids were shot. Yeah.
Like, when I was getting in my car last night and I was thinking about like everything that's going on, because like I'm a huge music fan, used to be a DJ, huge Drake fan, right? As I'm getting in my car last night, I was thinking to myself, I just had this ominous feeling. I said, this is not going to end well because of the subject matter where everything is going. Okay? It's not about rap or fame or anything. Like, it's gone to such a dark place. And the fact that everybody is enjoying that and everybody keeps throwing gasoline on the fire. And then you've got these radio stations, Hot 97, Power 105, like the major radio stations involved in this culture, right? I'm waiting for them to come out and be like, all right, that's enough. Like, we need to stop this. We've already seen how this ends up, right? I grew up in the 90s. I remember Tupac getting shot. I remember Notorious Big getting shot. I've seen countless rappers over the last 20 years that have gotten shot over bullshit, right? So I'm thinking to myself as I'm getting in my car, this is not going to end well. And then I hear about this shit this morning. Not to mention the fact that from a personal level, like I have a colleague that was killed working in private security. And I've often told people that I don't put it past. They've never released why this person was shot and killed. They found the person that did it. I don't know if you knew that, but they found the person that did it like earlier or late last year, right? It's never come out what it was about, but I don't put it past the guy that I know, the security guard that got killed, to have gotten involved in some back and forth, right? Just, that was his personality. God bless the dead, rest in peace. That was his personality, right? The parallel that I'm trying to draw here is that you working in security, if we bring this back to just the security aspect, working in security, you have to be very aware of people's desire to watch drama and bullshit. If you're working in an armed capacity, if you're working in an unarmed capacity, if you're working in a situation where you're responding to issues, you're responding to problems within the store, within the location, do not discount or discredit the fact that people are looking to watch a fight. They want to see a fight. They want to. And they're hoping that you come over there and you get your hands dirty. They're hoping that you come over there and you toss somebody. They will talk about those fights that happen in a store for the next 3 weeks. But buyer beware, because just because I am able to toss somebody, just because I'm able to put somebody in their place, that doesn't absolve me of the danger of that person coming back or someone else coming back. We had 2 security guards in a Macy's store last year, just before Christmas, that had approached somebody, had gotten somebody out of the store, had taken some merchandise back that these people were trying to steal. The guy came back within 15 minutes, stabbed one guy in the neck while he wasn't looking, and attempted to stab and kill the other one. The one security guard died. Like, as big and as strong and as tough as I am, I can't keep my head on a swivel enough in a 16-hour day to see every potential threat, angle, and opportunity for somebody to come after me. That's why I preach de-escalation. That's why I preach, approaching these situations with a measured intent, doing your absolute best to create a rapport with the people that are in that store, the people that are in that neighborhood, never coming off offensive or aggressive or ever like you're the person that's trying to start some shit. Because ultimately, when those people come back, I don't want them coming back looking for me, trying to harm me, trying to hurt me, or trying to hurt any of the people that are in the environment. But it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing that anybody would get harmed in this situation. It's really sad that it's a security guard that hits home. He doesn't have anything to do with this shit. And a lot of times, those are the people that get harmed in these situations, is the people that are on the peripheral that don't have anything to do with it. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I just find it crazy that it has escalated to this over some hurt feelings.
I agree.
I think if they're going to act like children, they should be spoken about like children. I swear to God, but that's literally what it is. All of this shit, it's over some hurt feelings. Like, you have millions of dollars. I don't know about Kendrick, but I'll just throw him in the same boat, right? Millions of dollars. Women throwing themselves at you left and right.
Like, what are you angry
about?
Like,
what are you mad about? Are you mad because you only have like 100 women throw yourselves and someone else has 110 women? Like, what are you mad about? And then, that's what all of this starts off. Like, that is what is crazy.
It plays into the stereotype that Black culture has no self-control. It absolutely plays into that stereotype. Because it's like, if you can't get to a level of success where you have hundreds of millions of dollars, mansions, access to anything and everything that you want, and you're still on some angry bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that plays into the narrative that it's a culture issue. You don't see fucking Tim McGraw and Jason Aldean throwing shots at each other, like, having people run up in their fucking...
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Steven Seagal, or goddamn, Sylvester Stallone. I couldn't think of his name. I was gonna say Steven Stallone. You don't get Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone on some fucking back and forth shit. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's hard for me being like a rational Black dude sometimes. Thinking about doing security at a medical marijuana dispensary in California, but the dispensary is in the hood. Should I pass? Yes. No long drawn out answer. Yes. Should I do?
Are you from the hood? Hold on, you could ask that. See if he lives in the neighborhood and knows
His name is
people
Tall E. I'm going to assume he is from the hood. Tall E, are you from the hood?
from the hood that you would be working in, and do you know the people, and
Working in any marijuana dispensary can be dangerous. Oof, man, you're putting two places that I try to avoid: marijuana dispensaries and the hood. You're putting both of those together. I would ask, what's the pay and what is your level of protection, and how many people are there? If you're working by yourself, if you're working overnight, like there'd be a lot of questions that I would ask, but nah, man, I don't think so. The second thing I wanted to talk about today is we've been talking a lot about should you render aid to people, and we had a situation. Wait, Tall E sends a laughing emoji, which I appreciate because I wasn't trying to make fun of you. He says, I'm from the hood, but not that hood. It's in Oakland. Oakland? No, don't do it. Tall E, I will be coming on here doing a video about you if you take that job, dude, because you're going to end up getting in some. I would not do a marijuana dispensary in Oakland, in the hood of Oakland. Absolutely not. But that's your life, man. I'm not here to, I'm just giving you my opinion. You asked, okay? He says, thanks. But no, we've been talking about rendering aid. I did 2 videos where I talked about this guy that got stabbed on Saturday, came into the store and was looking for help, right? Somebody had stabbed him under his armpit. It was a life-threatening. Did I tell you that?
fucking prison yard style, man.
Did I tell you that?
Fuck?
Did I tell you?
No.
I didn't tell you? I'll tell you about it. So anyway, this guy got stabbed and came into the store looking for help, right? And we have a younger, less experienced security guard, and he somewhat brought him into the store, right? So we were talking about whether or not that was the right decision and what should you do in that situation. So I had a stream yesterday where I was talking about how I believe the best course of action is to leave that person outside. Even if you feel like you want to step outside and deal with the situation, render aid to him on the sidewalk, don't bring him into the establishment, because then you're bringing the problem into the establishment. You don't know if this person was the initial aggressor. You don't know if this person has people that are after them. Stop grabbing my beard.
You have my hairs hanging out your beard. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The second time you grabbed my beard.
I thought I got it all the first time, but it's bothering me.
You don't know if that person still has somebody after them, right? So you don't want to bring those problems into the store. But then somebody commented on one of the videos and they were like, yeah, but if you don't do anything and that person were to die, you're going to get roasted in the media, like you're going to deal with the backlash. And that made me think of a story which is absolutely true. If you guys remember, like during COVID, there was all the anti-Asian stuff that was happening. Like there was a time in New York where people were like walking up to Asian people and hitting them.
Yeah.
You remember that? So there was a hotel in New York City, and there's a camera view from the desk of the hotel, and it looks out into the lobby. So they had one of those lobbies where it's like you walk through the lobby, and then you have one of those like spinning glass doors.
Yeah.
And then you have another set of big double doors, right?
I think I'm remembering the story.
Yeah.
About
So they had 2 security guards, and the 2 security guards are standing in the lobby. The video picks up an older Asian lady walking past the door, and this guy like grabs her and throws her on the ground, and he hits her a couple of times. And the 2 security guards who were in this lobby, they take the big doors and they close them. So instead of going out to help the lady, they close the doors so that whatever's happening outside doesn't come in. Their instructions in their post orders was to protect the interior of the hotel and to protect the staff and the clients and the guests of the hotel. This elderly lady, she was not a guest of the hotel. It happened on the sidewalk. Technically, it happens off their property.
Right.
So they really, in theory, based on their protocol of what they're supposed to be doing, they did the right thing.
Right.
But the media went crazy because like the mayor And when we talk about the mayor of New York City, it's not like the mayor of like fucking, you know, Supersburg, Mississippi. Like the mayor of New York City is like damn near a governor. I mean, like, it's a huge position.
Right.
He went crazy and he was like, I want these people fired. Like, I want their jobs. Like, this is unacceptable. The fact that they didn't do anything, blah, 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 blah. And then, like, there was this huge online backlash. It's right during this whole Stop Asian Hate campaign. And they hung these 2 security guards out to dry. Not only did they fire them, they were talking about, like, putting some sort of charges on them, or like negligence and trying to pull their securities clear, like their security certification. Ultimately, it all worked out and they ended up just getting fired. But that's a great example of how you can do the right thing, and depending on the public backlash, it could end up being looked at completely different. Like, I always tell people, don't bring the problem into the store. You're not contracted to help somebody that's on the street. You're not supposed to render aid to people when that's not a part of your contract. But by not doing that in certain circumstances, with
The court of
enough,
public opinion.
the court of public opinion could turn everything, you know?
And that is what is so shitty. That is what is so shitty. There are so many instances. I'll try to say this without throwing people under the bus, and I hope, you know, but there are so many instances where you don't render aid to strangers and no one questions it.
Huh? Oh, yeah.
You're overseas?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
of course. Yeah, no, you can, yeah.
You know, you're overseas. You ain't stopping to help them women and children who are just
I talked
2
about that.
feet
I
on the
talked
other
about that
side of the
last night.
fence,
I
you
talked
know?
about that last night. How when you're in the military, I was like, you know, you have a very specific set of operating orders, and it's like, we are going from point A to point B, and our only target is point B. And in between you're getting from point A to point B, you see all kinds of things
Yeah.
on the right and the left. And it's not your job to get involved in that, because getting involved in that could trigger an international incident. It could trigger a,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
anything and everything. Right. And you're saying that, like, that's acceptable in those situations.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, the difference between that and not, but at the same time, here in the United States, if you're in uniform, you know, if you are in full uniform, it's a little bit different, but, you know, if you don't render aid, at the end of the day, you could lose your job for helping someone and not following your post orders, because the company is like, absolutely not, you don't follow, you know, what we tell you to do. But if you don't help because you're following your post orders, you could lose your job because everyone else gets in an uproar and their company is like, oh, yep, no, you know what I'm saying? There's no protection.
You're one Twitter video away
Yeah.
from the company being like, get
And
this
there's
dude out of here.
there's no duty to act that you guys have,
That's
like
true.
police do.
That is
and
true.
that is what I think people forget in situations. And I'm not saying that I hope, you know, that I would hope no one would help me, but at the same time, I need to rewatch that video. I can't imagine that those 2 security guards were the only 2 people who witnessed besides the victim and the perpetrator. It's New York City.
Right.
There's a dozen people on every square inch of sidewalk damn near all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, why are these 2 who are on the job and getting paid being hung out to dry?
And people need to figure out which side of the fence they're on. All I hear all day long from people in the store and people online is, you're just a security guard. You're just a security guard. You're not a cop. You're not a cop. You're not a cop. You're just a security guard. Calm it down. Why you got all that equipment on? Calm it down. Okay, then. So when you're getting your ass kicked on the sidewalk, don't look at me. You can't have it both ways. I can't be, I'm just a security guard, calm it down, stop taking yourself so seriously, blah, blah, blah. And then when somebody's fucking sticking you up under your arm, you're looking at me going, help. No, motherfucker, I'm just a security guard. No. I'm a wannabe, right? I'm a wannabe. I ain't shit. Yeah, okay, so you and the guy with the knife, y'all have at it. That's how I'm looking at it. Like, okay, then. So for those 2 guys who ended up getting fired, like, I'm sure they get that all the time. Something's happening outside the doors and the security guard steps out. I see it all the time. Something is happening on the sidewalk. Security guard steps out. Hey, man, calm that down. Hey, fuck you. Fuck you, motherfucker. This is a sidewalk. This is public property. And then the person at the desk is always like, Jamal, hey, Jamal. Hey, buddy. I appreciate it, Jamal. Thank you. Jamal. Thank you. Hey, you remember? We just need you to focus on the inside of the interior, okay? Okay, that's public property there, buddy. Just don't get involved. We don't want to upset that guy out there. You just focus on what's in here. And then the second that the fucking mayor gets mad, now it's like, Jamal, why didn't you go out there? Because you've been telling Jamal day in and day out, stop going out there. Jamal was like, I'm closing these damn doors. You know what I mean? Best of luck to you. I just want consistency. Let's see. Tall E says, just subscribe. Great channel. Thanks, Tall E. Delaney, first strike was the label security guard. Second strike was someone needed to meet. Okay, yeah, no, I agree. The line between good Samaritan hero and the person that was trying to be a cop is overstepping their bounds. So I was just watching The Law of Self-Defense. If you guys don't follow that guy, he's awesome. I don't agree with his politics. He's a little too far right, and that's saying a lot for where I'm at right now. But he was saying that over the weekend, somebody was in McDonald's spazzing out. Shocking, I know. And so a guy that's in the back of the line decides to like tell the guy to calm down. Never a good idea. Personal protection tip. If you're out and about and you're in a McDonald's, definitely if you're in a Waffle House, don't go to Waffle House. Definitely if you're in a Popeye's Chicken, don't go to Popeye's Chicken. If you need Popeye's Chicken, hit the drive-thru. Okay? There's nothing positive.
And take your patience with you to wait in line.
Don't go into the Popeye's Chicken. There's nothing positive happening in there. The biscuits ain't worth your life. But if you're in a situation and somebody is freaking out like you see on these videos in line, don't become the hero. Because a person that is that unhinged to be losing their shit at a McDonald's or a Popeyes or a Waffle House, they have no problem turning that aggression on you, and that's exactly what happened. This guy, at 6 o'clock on Saturday, he's just minding his business, picking up food for his kids. And a guy in front of him is losing his shit, freaking out, and the guy decides to step in and try and calm things down. And the guy ended up stabbing him to death.
Jesus.
Yep. A lot of stabbings going on lately. I can't believe I didn't tell you about the Saturday stabbing. That's how normal that kind of shit is here in Portland, that like it doesn't even register for me.
It's always weeks later when you say like, oh man, remember when I told you about this? And I'm like, no, you didn't tell me about this. And you're like, well, let me tell you this story because now I got a follow-up story.
Right. Yeah. The guy who OD'd, his brother showed up.
Yeah.
And then he OD'd.
Yeah. You always tell me way after the fact. Which is so funny because every day you come home, I'm like, how was your day? And you're like, it's fine. Or you go, oh, it's busy. I'm like, anything happened? You're like, I don't know. It's like it takes a couple. It takes like
days, I have to decompress.
Days or weeks for you to go, here's what happened.
I go, oh today. My God, I didn't tell you about this. It all runs together. Yeah. All right, so let's just recap real quick. If you're working private security, 2 things. Be aware of the fact that people enjoy watching fights. They enjoy instigating fights. Do not allow the people that you're protecting or working for to put you in a situation where you potentially are going to have to deal with the repercussions of their amping a situation up. Okay? I don't know if I was very clear about that. Number 2, as much as I talk about not involving yourself in things that happen outside of your store, understand that by not doing that, by following your post orders, by doing the right thing, by not rendering aid and helping people that have nothing to do with your contract, you are not necessarily keeping yourself out of trouble, because the court of public opinion can put you on that Summer Jam screen and can get you fucked up too. So it's kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. It's a very thankless job, and it's a job where, unfortunately, we end up as security guards taking the brunt of the punishment either way. If we do the right thing, more than likely you're going to get in trouble. If you do the wrong thing, you're going to get in trouble. Somebody asked a question about if you're involved in a shooting, if you're a security guard and you're involved in a shooting and everything is right, will your company stand behind you? And the question or the answer is that it depends. It depends on the backlash. We've had situations, the company that I work for now, in 2020, when the riots were going on, we had a officer that was working at a bank. And this bank is in a very high protest area. So this is when the riots were going on like full steam here in Portland. He is in it basically set up the exact same way of the hotel I just described. There's an interior of the bank that has a door that goes into a lobby where the ATMs are, and then there's a door that goes out to the street. So you have this kind of like little atrium area, right? There was an entire Antifa protest that came in through that door. So they're coming in through the door that's
Into the
right off the
atrium.
street into the atrium. He's standing in the atrium blocking the door into the bank. They're screaming, yelling. They're all like, ah, right?
Yeah.
And he's like going, get back, get back, get back. Everybody get back. And they're moving in, moving in. And it's like, I'm going to say 60, but there's maybe 30 people that are pushing in. There's a huge mob of people behind him. And he pulls his firearm. Now, when he pulls his firearm, everybody scrambles. They start running. Okay? He was cleared of any wrongdoing, but because the bank didn't want, they're already a target, right? They didn't want any further backlash. Like, they kind of sat on that for maybe, like, that whole time when I was working at that bank down there. That's because they had pulled him off of there. So there was this whole like 4-week long investigation as to like whether he was in the right to have pulled his firearm. Should he have done that? Is it right to have an armed guard there? There was all this rigmarole, and the entire time that this is happening, he's just on the sidelines. And then ultimately, I think that they ended up moving him somewhere else because they didn't want Antifa to be like, hey, that's the guy that pulled a gun, and then come back. So it really threw a wrench in his situation. And I don't know that he was paid during that time. And if he was, he wasn't paid his normal rate, right?
Yeah.
But then there's other situations where we've had people that have been involved in shootings where it was justified and there was no backlash and the company didn't do anything. And there's been times where officers have simply put their hand on their gun, pulled their gun up, but not taken the gun out and pointed it, but been in a situation where they've put their hand on their gun and maybe
released it.
Yeah, we call it breaking leather. They've just pulled it up. And based on the circumstances, it's been a situation where that officer's been terminated or removed from that contract. So there's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't matter if you're right. It all comes down to the situation, the perception of the situation, the potential backlash. There's no rhyme or reason. None.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people, like, you have to make sure that you are doing everything right. There's 5 things that have to happen before you decide to pull your firearm. And I will go over them really quickly. Number 1 is that the threat has to be imminent. It means it's happening right now. No question about it. Objectively, anybody can look at it and go, yeah, that was an immediate threat that you had to respond to either you or a third party. Okay? The second thing is that you have to have objectively reasonable use of force to where anybody would look at that situation and go, yeah, you pulling that firearm was perfectly reasonable based on the situation. The third thing is, did you have the opportunity to retreat? Did you have the opportunity to shut the situation down, to back off, to move away? Now, if somebody pulls a knife out right now, you don't have an opportunity to retreat, so that's not an issue. But in an argument issue or a situation where you get into it with somebody, that ability to retreat, if it's there, that takes away your argument of self-defense, right? The fourth thing is that it has to be proportional. Okay, proportional means that, are you responding to an imminent threat with a reasonable amount of force that you couldn't retreat from with a proportionate response? I am 6'2", probably 280 pounds. If a 5'3" elderly woman pulls a knife on me from 20 feet away and says, "I'm gonna kill you," and she starts walking super slow, I can articulate that that is a imminent threat. I can articulate that it's reasonable for me to pull my firearm. If my back is up against the wall and I can't go anywhere but towards her to get out of that area, I don't have an opportunity to retreat. But would that response be proportionate in the situation that I'm facing right then?
Right.
Right? So, imminent, reasonableness, proportion, retreat. Oh, and the last thing, innocence. You have to be the innocent party. You can't start a situation and then pull your firearm and then claim self-defense, right? For security guards, this is where we get ourselves in trouble. I work in an environment where my job says only respond to situations. I don't have the authority to go and find situations. So if someone is shoplifting in the store and I see them shoplifting and I go, "This motherfucker," and I walk over, and he's putting jeans into a duffel bag, and I go, "Take those jeans out of that duffel bag, motherfucker." And he turns around and goes, "Hey, fuck you." And then I go, "Fuck you." And now we start getting into it. Okay, right there in that situation, I've already put myself by post orders outside of the innocence of what has just started. Okay? Even if it ultimately gets to a point to where I have to pull that firearm and defend myself in self-defense, by policy, I shouldn't have already been over there. So maybe I don't get arrested, maybe I don't go to jail, but I can tell you what's going to happen. My company's going to cut me, and any defense that I have to do in court, it's going to be on my own. Right? Mm-hmm. That innocence has to be there. All right? He says, reasonable is subjective term, but I get what you mean. Everything is subjective. Listen, what is reasonable in Montana is not what's reasonable in Portland. What is reasonable in Arkansas is not what's reasonable in Rhode Island, right? It's all subjective. And that's why I try to tell you guys to be careful of the things that you do, because a lot of times when we're talking about what we can do or what we should do or what's the best thing for us to do in security, people will argue with me and be like, well, I can't just stand by and watch somebody bleed out on the sidewalk. That's morally not okay, and I'm going to do this. Okay, but your morality is subjective to how the other people see it. The people that hold the contract, the people that potentially bring a lawsuit against you or your company or the place that you're working, it's all subjective. Mm-hmm. And so is being in front of a jury of 12 people. Mm-hmm. It's not objective. They're going to go, well, this is how I feel, you know? Mm-hmm. Bro, just because a cop qualified immunity will protect you against everything. Yes. Qualified immunity does help police officers, but as security guards, we are not police officers. We don't have any qualified immunity. You know? We don't. We don't have qualified immunity, and people hate us. They hate our existence. And everybody that you know and everybody that will sit in a potential jury has had a negative interaction with a security guard, even if it's just the fact that they don't like the fact that they went to a location and a security guard was there, right? People have had security guards that have been overly aggressive. People have had security guards that have taken themselves too seriously. Like, it doesn't matter. Most people have had a negative interaction with a security guard or have seen a negative representation of a security guard. Everybody's seen Paul Blart. Everybody's seen Craig and Day and Friday. Like, it is what it is. So that's their idea of what you do and who you are when they're dealing with whatever it is that you've done. You know?
Yeah.
Anything else?
It was all good.
It was all good. All right. Y'all be careful. Take care.